Okay, we are currently live streaming. And this is People of the State of Michigan versus Jordan Lyons, docket number 21-314FC. This is the time, I'm told, that is set for a plea. And which count or counts is he pleading to?
Your Honor, this will be a plea to counts 2 and count 3.
Okay. Mr. Lyons, if that's correct, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Lyons, you have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Silverthorne. And Mr. Silverthorne, if this is a plea to counts 2 and 3, will you waive reading of count 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Eisenhot, would you read count 1, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean counts 2 and 3, pardon me.
Yes, Your Honor. This is case number 21-0314FC, People of the State of Michigan versus Jordan Thomas Lyons, State of Michigan, County of Ingham. In the name of the people of the State of Michigan, the prosecuting attorney for this county appears before the court and informs the court that on or about June 16th, 2020, at 168 Pine Drive, City of Mason, Ingham County, the defendant did, in count 2, being 17 years of age or older, engage in sexual contact with a person under 13 years of age, contrary to Michigan law. This is a Tier 3 offense under the Sex Offender Registration Act and is punishable by up to 15 years and lifetime electronic monitoring upon parole from prison, mandatory AIDS, STD testing, DNA to be taken upon arrest. And in count 3, being 17 years of age or older, did engage in sexual contact with a person under 13 years of age, contrary to Michigan law. This is a Tier 3 offense under the Sex Offender Registration Act and is punishable by up to 15 years and lifetime electronic monitoring upon parole from prison, mandatory AIDS, STD testing, DNA to be taken upon arrest. This notice applies to all counts. Take notice that pursuant to Michigan law, upon bind over to circuit court or recorder's court, the district court judge shall order the defendant to be tested for sexually transmitted infection, hepatitis B infection, and for the presence of HIV or an antibody to HIV if the judge determines there is reason to believe the violation involves sexual penetration or exposure to a body fluid of the defendant. If the district judge determines that testing is not required, upon conviction, the court must order the defendant to be tested. The court shall order law enforcement to collect a DNA identification profiling sample before sentencing or disposition if not taken at arrest. This done against the peace and dignity of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Lyons, you're being charged here with 2 separate charges or counts of second-degree criminal sexual conduct. Those are each felonies and each is punishable by up to 15 years of prison. You would also be subject to the requirements of the Michigan Sex Offender Registration Act, and you would be subject to lifetime electronic monitoring upon release. Also, if you were on parole at the time you committed either of these offenses, you would be subject to a mandatory consecutive sentence. Have you had enough time to talk about these charges with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
No, ma'am.
How do you want to plead?
Guilty.
If your plea of guilty is accepted by this court, it means you won't have a trial of any kind, and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with a trial. That means you'll give up the right to a trial by jury, or if you didn't want trial by jury, trial by judge. You'll be giving up your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, and to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You'll give up your right to have the witnesses against you appear at the trial and to be able to cross-examine them, as well as the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the trial. You'll give up your right to remain silent at the trial and not to have your silence used against you, or in the alternative, to testify at the trial if you wanted to. There's also a couple of things about appeals that are different when you plead guilty. The first is that when you plead guilty, you don't get an automatic right to appeal your case to the next higher court. court. Instead, you have to ask them to look at it, and they would have to agree to look at it. The other thing that's different is when you plead guilty, there are many issues you simply cannot appeal, which is very different from people who go to trial. If they get convicted, they can appeal pretty much everything. Do you understand all of that, Mr. Lyons?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, if I accept your plea, it means you cannot come back later on and try to say that the plea was the result of some promise or threat that no one told me about today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
It also means you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a plea agreement, Ms. Eisenhut?
Yes, Your Honor. On successful plea and sentence to counts 2 and 3, the people agree to dismiss count 1.
Is that a full and complete statement, Mr. Silverthorne?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Lyons, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree with it?
Yes.
Now, right now, I do not know what your sentence will be, and I haven't made any deals or agreements with anyone about your sentence. Are you clear on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything else that hasn't been said here right now in order to get you to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone used any threats to get you to plead guilty today?
Not at all. No.
Is this your own choice to do this?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you doing it because you believe you are in fact guilty of these offenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then we're talking about counts 2 and 3, and tell me what you did on or about June 16, 2020. This involves a person under 13. Tell me what you did.
Well, there was a party at my baby mama's house. I went to the party. That later on that night, everybody went to sleep. A guy throws up on me and my son, so I get up and I get a change of shorts from my baby mama, and we all lay back down or whatever. And I get up again and I go in the living room, and I sat next to the girl and like touched her titty and her inner thigh, and that was it. And I went back and laid down.
How old was that girl?
I'm not sure how old she was. I know she looked kind of young, but I didn't know how old she was. I don't know her at all.
If you learn later that she was under 13 years of age, are you arguing with that at all, or will you go along with it?
I will go along with it.
Okay, and how old were you at the time?
I was above 17. I was 21.
Okay, and you said you touched her breast and her inner thigh, both, correct?
Yes.
Did you do that for a sexual purpose?
Sexual contact. You know.
You did it for a sexual purpose, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and that happened at 168 Pine Drive in Mason, Ingham County. Is that accurate?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Has the court complied with MCR 6.302, Ms. Eisenhut?
You have, Your Honor.
Mr. Silverthorne?
Yes, Your Honor, you have.
Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Ms. Eisenhut?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Silverthorne?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea. It's supported by the testimony. The plea is accepted. I have a sentencing date of Monday, July 18 at 2:30, if that works for you, Mr. Silverthorne.
It does, Your Honor.
Ms. Eisenhut, do you anticipate a victim statement?
I do, Your
for
Honor.
sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, then I'm going to do that in person. I'll do an in-person sentencing. and that will be Monday, July 18th, again at 2:30. And Mr. Lyons, in the meantime, you're going to get a visit. I think it'll probably be a remote visit from someone from the probation department. It's very important. They're going to interview you. It's for the report that I'll use for sentencing. And if there's nothing further for the record, then that will end our hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your
You
Honor.
can tell them there at the jail, Mr. Lyons, that you're all set.
Okay, thank you. You have a nice day.
Thank you.